Some people have asked me how I can be so critical of people. When I answer those questions, I say that I'm able to do this because I've conquered being able to be critical of myself, extremely critical of myself, partly because of the sign I'm born under, but because I know that I have that obligation to be able to turn the microphone inward, to be able to point the finger to myself, to be able to hold a mirror to myself and accept and love the disaster I see before me. At that time. So that's how I'm able to be so critical of other people. Now, let me explain that a little bit. When people are critical of other people, they feel a sense of superiority and that their way or perception is the right way or viewpoint. And that's not how that's supposed to go. There's two ways that criticism and critique, which is essentially the same damn word. However, they really do, in essence, have two different meanings. But anyway, two different ways this can go. And I'll get into that part in a second with the dichotomy. So you have one way where people can feel the superior way. And then there's another way where people can say, I love you, so I am going to critique you. Not criticize you, but I'm going to critique your actions. What it is that you're doing to elicit the responses that it is, whether it's you have bad spending habits and you're always broke, or you're speaking things into existence, negative things, whatever your thing is that causes your life strife, your trials and tribulations, I'm going to critique those because I love you. That in itself, that very explanation is the definition of non-judgmental. The very definition of it. Because only people who love you won't be judgmental. They will critique. Now, criticism is exactly what it is. It has a negative connotation. Because when you're criticizing a person, you're pointing that finger of yours to someone else. Usually when we're criticizing a person, there's underlying truth about ourselves that we're trying to deflect. Sometimes there aren't. But in general, that's usually the case, because I can't point the finger at you if I can't take that same and criticize you and take that same finger and point it at myself for that same exact thing. That's criticism. Critiquing is helpful. Hey, you have bad spending habits. Why don't you set up a budget? Why don't you do these things to improve your life or to meet better classes of people to have as friends and significant others? Whatever your situation is that loved one is critiquing you on, don't see it as criticism. That's also part of how effective this process can be, because the reception is just as important as the injection of this information into the receiver's sphere. Their sphere is made up of everything that they already know. So when another person comes and says, hey, this is something that you're not seeing, that you need to see, let's see which finger they're pointing. If they're pointing the criticism finger, then yes, it's a judgment. And you get defensive because it's your sphere that you created. It's your bubble and it's your universe, your world. So for someone to point a finger at that and say it's fucked up, of course you're going to be defensive. Of course you're going to look at that person like they have 7 heads. Of course you're going to feel some kind of fucking way. But if a person is coming to you that really genuinely loves you and giving you a critique about your sphere and this bubble that you have created for yourself, your world, and you know that this person genuinely loves you and cares about you and just wants the best for you, then you can accept that information and use it if it is useful for you or whatever the situation entails. Turning the information into usable information if it wasn't already. Whatever it looks like for you. So we have to be able to do those things. We have to be able to, one, again, be able to point the finger inward and make sure that when we're pointing that shit inward, we're seeing exactly what the fuck it is that we're talking about. Because if we're not, then it's definitely a criticism. But if we've experienced those things, or if we have a good sense of that thing for that person, and we positively critique these individuals or give them this information to help them in their life, in their bubble, to help make their bubble more pleasant and livable, and we can point that same finger to us, then the other person can receive it as non-judgmental. Now, with myself. I'm my worst critic, just like everyone else's. Everyone is their absolute worst critic. So naturally I am. However, I'm horrible with it to the point where this was a natural occurrence for me. I would criticize and critique myself before I would open my mouth about whatever the subject matter was to anyone else. I refuse to look bad. Like, I really put a lot of critical thought effort into everything that I do and say. Although I do use a lot of animation, a lot of lexical animation, a lot of whatever you want to call it, to make things fun. I may over-exaggerate, but that's part of the animation. I may do all of these things, but it's just to express myself and to help people see how these situations can be and what they look like. But from that comedic point of view, or at least I see it as that shit. I don't care what you say. I think I'm funny. Well, sometimes anyway. But no, we had to be able to do that if we're going to be in positions like this, where we're talking about helping people through major situations and life changes and scores of people. We're not just talking about being able to talk to your best girlfriend or your best bro or whatever and have these conversations. No, I mean, that's natural. So that shit doesn't count. I'm talking about people that are out there with these shows, podcasts, YouTubes, TikToks, whatever, social media, and they're out here impacting thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and they're not doing the same things themselves. So my example, me, very critical, pointing that finger inward, looking in the fucking mirror like, bitch, get your shit together. You can't sit here and say a motherfucking thing to anybody about ABC until you fix this shit. And that's what I did. And that's what I do. Whenever there's something, I do an inventory. Okay, wait a minute. Before I make a cast about this, what the fuck does it look like for me? Because the last motherfucking thing people will be able to do is come back and say, hey, and point that shit out. Oh, no. That's not going to happen. Like I said, I'm way too vain for all of that shit. It's just who I am. That perfectionist, I guess. That perfectionist Leo. Which sometimes is like a fucking cardinal sin to some fucking people. Let them tell it. But it's about fairness. It's about being able to see truth. What is the example I always use? Duality. The epithet. It is a central tenet. Balance. Duality is pretty much the same fucking thing. You have to have one in order to have the other, and it has to be equal. Can't have more of one than the other. Yes, we have more sun in the summer and spring months, but that is countered in the other half of the year. It's a cycle, cyclical, balance. We're not talking about an oblong cylinder. We're not talking about something that's uneven and unequal on its sides. We're talking about something that's straight down the fucking middle. Just like the moon cycles, just like everything else. It's straight down the fucking middle, balanced, equal, and it is permanent and true. So we have to be that way with ourselves. We have to know our truths before we can bring truths to other people. So in my life, I went through a whole lot. I mentioned it in my book. I don't want to rehash it because, hey, I want you to buy the book. There's some good words in there. So I've gone through a lot, a whole lot. There isn't much I can't speak of. Some things obvious. Some things, of course, no one knows. Some things a lot of people that are close to me and have been in my life, the majority of it, don't know. It's just been so much every single day. I remember multiple times throughout my life saying, you know what, I'm going to make a journal. Lord knows what these things are now. But I literally made a journal every day when I woke up, and I would say this shit to myself, and I remember saying it to myself multiple times throughout my life. Every fucking day I wake up is something new. Every day. And it was so true. Every day I woke up, it was a fucking problem somewhere. It was a fire I had to put out somewhere, and it always was to my detriment. It was always something that affected me in some drastic way. And I'm like, dear God, why is this shit going on? Why? Okay. When God started answering me, it all became clear. So, like I said in my book, I don't have those questions anymore. I don't. Because I know what I have to do. I know that I cannot bring truth to people unless I know my own fully. The kicker is that we're constantly evolving. So our truth, although fundamentally, foundationally, it's the same because it's us, our souls. However, for those moments. Those truths will be different as you go through. So what applied 5, 10 years ago may not apply today. It is to help you grow and evolve. Change. Change is necessary. That is the one consistent fucking thing that we can say without fail. Change. It is when we resist change that we have the complications. And that's when we have the mental health issues arise. When we don't change. Not finding your passion and actually working in it. You want to stay in the same job, dead-end cubicle type 9-to-5 thing that doesn't really exist wholly as it was 50, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Staying in those situations, knowing they aren't right. Staying in domestic violence situations. Staying in a negative headspace. Staying in those places do not serve you. Maybe for that moment, a quick job to pay some bills to catch up and change your trajectory. Whatever you needed to do, it served its purpose. Now let that shit go. No, here you are still in the same miserable ass job in the same position you've held for the past decade and wondering why shit isn't changing. Now you have mental health. You're depressed. You're anxious. You hate going to work. Like all of this shit is cascading. And you're wondering why. Because you won't change. You won't make a change. Like Michael Jackson said, we gotta make a change. The man in the mirror. Without that, how can we look at ourselves in that mirror? How can we look at ourselves in that mirror and say, you know what, I'm loving what the fuck I'm saying. I can point my finger at that bitch and say, hey, whore, you did a great motherfucking job. I applaud you. Can we say that to ourselves? Can every single person look in the mirror right now and say that? You have done fucking fantastic. I don't know about y'all. I mean, I don't know each and every one of you. So I can't say what you can and can't do. But you do need to answer that question for yourself. I'm just telling you on my cast what I can do. I can look in the mirror. And I do that every morning. Great job, bitch. What you going to do today? Because you're done. I'm talking to myself in that mirror like, bitch, you're done. You did what you know the formula. Now you just have to bring your brothers and sisters on board. But there are things that those motherfuckers have to do to get to the point that you are. And then continue to evolve on their own. And I'm like, really? Girl, I knew it. So ask yourself that question. Can you look in the mirror and point your bony ass fucking finger at you and say, well done. Well motherfucking done. Can you? Can you smile at that person and say that you're proud of that person and you fucking love that person more than any goddamn thing on this planet, in this life? Can you do that? Can any of you do that? If you can, I applaud you too. I'm right behind you, cheerleading like a motherfucker. My pom-poms and my little skirt. I want everyone to be here. I want everyone to be at this point. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's just, it matters that you make that change for yourself. I don't give a shit if you evolve or you don't. If you choose not to evolve or if you don't. Because it's not my soul. But I do give a shit that you receive this information. Because if you don't, then you wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to know what this process is. Because if you made it here and you never heard it before, would there be another chance for you to hear this? Who else is going to tell you this if you haven't heard it yet? Especially if you're my age, older, almost 5 fucking decades. Half a fucking century. Oh, God. Just thinking about that. Anyway, just having a private moment there. So, no matter how old you are, you could be 20 years old, haven't lived long for shit. But the fact still remains, the process still needs to happen. Look at yourself. Who were you a couple of years ago when you graduated high school? Or if you live in Baltimore City, if you're a senior right now at 20. Look at yourself and ask yourself, who are you? Of course, you're not expected to know at that age, but can you look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? I feel myself getting closer to finding that out. I feel myself getting one step closer. If you still feel like you're confused, like I don't know what the fuck is going on. It is way too much going on here. I'm sick of being called a millennial or whatever the new fucking term is for people that for 20-year-olds at this point. You should know who you are as a person. For example, I knew I liked girls when I was 3, 4. And of course, some people say, how can you know that, young? Trust me. This intelligence has been with me for a very long time. And it's spiritual intelligence that was cultivated over multiple lifetimes. experience. If you have to ask that question, then you're not like me. There are a lot of old souls out there, and I am one. So I am going to naturally have an advanced knowledge of certain things, and also going to be more advanced at certain areas of my life, because I know and understand basically everything repeats itself. History repeats itself. Life repeats itself. Everything is redundant, and we go through this shit all the time. These are things that I already knew and was well aware of. There are some souls who are fairly young, and they haven't had these experiences yet. So a lot of it is unfamiliar to them. But coming out the twat, I could walk just a few months old. I knew I had a path. So it was very early on that I knew what my path was. That's how I knew. So young. It just really depends on where you're supposed to be. We have to be able to point that finger at ourselves and ask those questions of ourselves. Are you doing what your soul needs you to do? Is your higher self looking down at you like, yes, bitch, go ahead, knock out them goddamn milestones, hop over them obstacles, girl. I am so proud of you, honey. I love it. I love it. The feeling from it. You know, I've actually had people tell me I don't want to call it superfluous. The word that I want to use is overconfident. If someone asks me a question about a situation, I respond to the question, whatever it is, appropriately, of course. And then they say, I don't understand. That's something that gets under my skin, because I reiterate constantly that if I have not experienced it, I am not going to firmly speak on it. So if a person tells me I don't understand, number one, other than pissing me off and telling me that I don't know what my own intelligence level is, or that I'm bullshitting, but two, that this person doesn't expect me to know anything about whatever the situation is that they have going on, as if I'm lying. I can't deal with that kind of shit, because it's like you come to me for this information and I'm giving you the information, and then you tell me the damn information is a lie, or it's not a full truth, or it's just some variation of that. I'm like, well, what the fuck did you ask me for? If you had already made up in your mind what the fucking decision was going to be. Kind of like how law enforcement does. When they're looking for people, they do all of their investigating. They gather all of their facts. So by the time they have a warrant for your ass, they have that warrant based on those facts. They already know what the fuck the shit is. They want to just see if you are going to admit to that shit. I mean, there are times that these bitches can get it completely wrong. Trust they can, and a lot of times they do, because of laws weren't made for us. So it doesn't take a lot of effort for them to make the shit work in their favor, should I say. But it's the same way. They already know. So a person already knows what it is that they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be leading. But don't tell me that I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing and how I'm supposed to be leading. You can usually tell whether or not this person is advanced because they're like me. They just truly don't give a shit, because they know. They know the process. They've been through the process, and they've conquered the process. And they just want you to be able to do that. I mean, of course, we're still human. We're still fallible. But we can still be smart about it. We still can be emotionally intelligent. We can be thoughtful of others. We can use that emotional intelligence to be able to help others and lead them. We can lead people. We can guide them without ruling them. And that's how we do it. When we're at that point, when you are a person that's trying to force people to do certain things, you have that work to do, because Jesus didn't force anyone to do anything. He gave the option, and people made the choices on their own, whether or not they wanted to follow one God or just follow some other shit. Choices. But these people who rule, trying to be authoritarians, are the ones who usually are the most insecure and the least evolved. They assert the power that they have, even if it's one that's given to them through position. They are overbearing in those positions because they have something to prove. Leading and guiding, completely separate from forcing. And it's very easy for an unevolved person to turn from one to the other, because one can go from the totalitarian to the leader and guide, and vice versa. So anyway, I could talk about that stuff till I'm blue in the face, but going back to myself and how I ended up like this, it's because I'm able to look at myself and I fixed that problem. I evolved. I got rid of all of the bullshit. I did the things that I was supposed to do. I suffered through the things that I needed to suffer through. And now I'm here. through those experiences, I learned, I evolved, I've grown. I have a strength like no other. I don't get sad and depressed about things that happen in life. I embrace them. I embrace them. Why? Because they're growth opportunities. Just like anything in business, the opportunity to grow and evolve is the whole point of business, because you make money that way. If you're a stagnant company, if you're a company with a great product, but you're stagnant, someone else will come and knock you off the top of the fucking the chain. You gotta learn to evolve. I did a case study on Blockbuster versus Netflix with this. Blockbuster wanted to stay what they were, a home entertainment, but Netflix came and knocked them motherfuckers right off the top. It was only when they started to take away some of their customer base, when Netflix started to take away some of Blockbuster's customer base, is when Blockbuster wanted to start adapting, evolving into a technology-based company. It was too late by then, because as slow to action, as I guess flippant as they were about what was really happening, that was any technology accepted when it's first introduced to society. Think about the telephone. Think about the television. Think about the microwave, TV dinners. Think about all of these innovations that came and people were like, oh, it was just a fad. And here the shit is 50, 60, 70, 90, 100 years later. And we're constantly improving upon the base technology. So what happens with that? People just kind of, we'll see how it does. In that time, Netflix scaled. They fucking scaled. And it derailed completely Blockbuster. Where are they now? They're still trying to struggle and hold on. They're trying, but they're not really succeeding. Blockbusters were everywhere. It was, every Friday night, let's get some videos, and there were jokes about not rewinding. Of course, then they started charging for having to rewind the damn videos. Like, it was a cultural thing. Then Netflix came along and was like, man, fuck, we don't have time for all that shit. Here, give me one subscription, and here are the rules, and that's it. The only thing you had to do was just that one thing. Send the fucking disc back in. That's all you had to do. That's all you had to do. Just with anything else. You know you don't own the shit. And then if you don't turn it back in, you pay for it. The end. They didn't charge you if it was late. I mean, if it was months later, you never turned it back in. Obviously, they charge you for the disc. But if it was a day late, you didn't get charged per day. You had a subscription for DVDs. You sent them back to get more, whatever your particular subscription was. And everybody was happy. It's just too much. You got to deal with the Blockbuster store hours, finding a location, all of these different factors that went into this entire process. And it's just like, it's just too daunting. I just want to be lazy and have the shit sent to my house. If it's something I want to watch now, I could do that. Like right now. I can do that right now. I don't have to put on clothes and leave the fucking house in the middle of the night. Or make sure I don't have anything outstanding. Or making sure that I have enough money to cover another movie I might see that I want to get. Whatever the shit is. Anyway, like that example is just about how new thoughts and things like that help us grow. And when we're stagnant, we don't grow. And we end up losing more than if we would have just done the one small fucking piece of thing, whatever it was, whatever that one action was to evolve. If we would have just done that, we could have saved our entire lives, our livelihoods, our situations, whatever. Just always think about Blockbuster, man, whenever you are grappling with that question. Am I doing everything that I need to do to evolve? Am I looking in the mirror enough? Whatever that is for you, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that thought question process is for you, for your growth, do it. Don't be afraid of the questions, because questions beget answers, and answers help you understand. So don't be afraid of those questions. Don't be afraid of the damn answers. That's part of the problem. Nobody wants to face anything these days. Everyone's so fucking sensitive. Everyone's just so, oh my God, we can't say those things. We can't do this. We can't do that. Why? Who was in charge of these unwritten rules? Because I'd like to have a fucking conversation with this bitch. Who the fuck is in charge of this shit? Because every day it's a new one. And I'm sick of it. Like, I just want to be able to live and not have to fall into some type of little block of something to be able to say, I'm following the rules. I'm following the status quo. I'm falling in line. I'm not falling into any motherfucking thing. My damn comfy plush bed. That's the only thing I'm falling into. That or a spa. We really have to look at that. We have to look at ourselves. And in order to be able to be people that want to and need to affect change, the people who need to are the people that have it as their calling. But in order to be able to affect change, we have to be able to change ourselves or accept the change that happens with growth. We have to be able to accept that. If we don't, then we can't possibly be effective in our job, whatever that is here, whatever our duty is here. Each and every one of us has one. Whatever those duties are, we can't be efficient in those, in properly executing. If we can't look at ourselves, it's impossible. If you are, let's say, and I always use an artist of some type as an example. There's a reason for that, but I'm not going to get into that now. But that's my go-to example. So if you're an artist, let's say a music artist, and you make really good fucking music, but you're a dick. You're an asshole because to reach to those points, you have to go through a whole lot. You have to go through some trauma. You have to go through stress. You have to go through all of these things, but you persevered and you perfected your music. You have this talent, but you never worked on yourself as a person. So you have this beautiful talent and you finally make it, but it's snatched away from you because you're a bitch. You're an asshole to your fans, to the people that you work with, your team, everyone, just everyone you encounter, you're a dick to. You will easily lose that shit. If you're going to tell someone that they're worthless, can you look in the mirror and say that you've never felt how that person may be feeling right now, that you've never been called that, and recalling how you felt at that time when someone called you that? Do you feel that way yourself now? And that's why you're possibly deflecting. You have to ask these questions. It's critical to your own evolution. You have to be able to look at yourself and clear yourself before you can chastise anyone else, before you can judge anyone else. I mean, none of this shit should be happening in the first place. You shouldn't be judging anyone at all. We're not here to judge. That's God's job. If you can answer those questions without any reasonable doubt, with unwavering conviction in those responses, then you, my friend, have evolved. You have affected change in your own sphere, your own life, your own bubble, your own silo. And that is a very tough thing to do. Sometimes it takes an entire lifelong journey to do that. For some people, it does. It takes that long. Some people may realize it and then walk outside and get hit by a bus. But it took them that long. Their soul had to go through every single one of the lessons that they had to learn. And as soon as they learned, it's like hit that one nail, then it's time to move on. The soul moves on to its next mission. That happens when you see people have freak accidents or just die in their sleep or just out of the blue. Of course, no one knows what another person's soul's journey is. Of course, half of us, not half, most of us don't even know what our own damn journeys are. But that's the point. You can understand another person's journey simply through emotional intelligence and having gone through your own evolution. You can understand another's journey. You don't have to know the context in order to do that, but you can understand the parameters of their journey, and you'll be able to lead them and guide them. Whatever your position is in that person's life, you'll be able to do that more effectively and efficiently if you've gone through that evolution process yourself. So I said all of that to say, I've gone through all of that shit. I've done it all. And I'm here to help each and every one of you. Me being quote unquote critical is me critiquing because I love each and every one of you. You know this. Because I wouldn't spend my time fussing like a goddamn nagging ass wife or a fucking deranged parent that just over loves and smothers and all of that. That's what they do. That's what I'm doing. Because I want everyone to be okay. That's all I want. I only want the people that I love to be okay. And that is every single one of you in this world. Because we're all part of the same fabric. We're all different little threads that paint one picture on the same tapestry. We're all in this together. Every last one of us. So of course I want to see you prevail. I want to see you succeed in everything that you reach for. I want to see all of that for everyone. Because when others fail, I fail. And this motherfucker does not, honey, let me tell you, I do not like to fail. I don't even know how to spell that word, let alone want to say it in a sentence, diagram it, or do whatever the fuck. Go through its whole lexical history to be able to understand the origins of this word. I don't want to deal with that word at all in any capacity. So you're damn sure going to get the best lessons, the best critique, the hardest and harshest of it all from me, just so I can see you succeed. That whole reciprocity thing, balance, yin yang, all of that I talk about, that's exactly what that is. It may on the outside look self-serving, but it's far from it. I had to perfect myself in order to be able to help everyone my voice reaches. That's how that works. It's reciprocity. I have to clean my shit in order for you to be able to eat off my table. It's very fucking simple. We all have to do that. You grow and learn so you can be a great adult, an awesome parent, a wonderful spouse. That applies to you, to all of us, in being a human being. That's not isolated. Every single one of us has to grow, has to evolve in order to impact others' lives in the most highly positive way that we can. That is our duty to one another. It is my duty as a person who's gone through every fucking thing to help every last one of you to not have to suffer as much as I did. Every fucking thing that I went through, everything I suffered through, I can help you not lose yourself in your situations if you happen to have to go through them. Like, it's ridiculous how many situations I've gone through. Like, weird shit that doesn't even make any sense, that makes no sense for my life. But I have to go through it in order to be able to speak on it, to help other people through it. Some of the shit baffles me. Like, why am I even dealing with this shit? What the fuck does this have to do with anything? And lo and behold, like, I don't know, a year later, I'll meet a person that is going through that situation. And I'll be able to tell them how I got through it. And then they can follow it to a T, or they can adapt it to their situation. Like, however that needs to happen. Again, we're all here to affect each other. And we can't do that successfully. And that's why humanity is so fucked up. I mean, look at humanity. Like, look at us right now. We are so fucked and fucked up. We're so bad right now. And it's because of this. We're selfish. We're broken. All of humanity is broken. So we just need to heal. And healing involves that process. Being able to do the hardest shit in the world, and that's look at ourselves in the mirror and point out, not the superficial flaws. Oh my God, my hair's so thin, or it's too curly, or something fucking just shut the fuck up. That's not what we're fucking talking about here. Get the fuck out of that shit. We're talking about real deep down shit. Do you have a hole in your heart from some fucking trauma, and it's nothing but black ash filling that hole? Dust that shit out. Get a vacuum, hoover that shit out, and fill it with love. Heal that place. You know your situations. You know them. Fix them. Don't hold on to that shit. Evolve. And then you'll recognize, after you've evolved past all of that shit, and you're a new person, you've shed that skin, you've molted. Once you've done all of that, you'll look and recognize that that situation was so minute. But while you were in it, it seemed like staring up from the bottom of the Nile up to the top of Victoria Falls. Something just overwhelming. Like, I could never pass that. I'm not going to be able to pass that. We need to stop doing that. We're grandizing things that are like pebbles. They're just another pebble on life's beach. That's all. We're making this shit hard. We always do. That's human nature. Why? Where that shit develops, I don't know. See, we evolve into these people that make our lives so much more difficult because we don't want to evolve into the people that don't have difficult lives, that have complete peace. It's so backwards. Yes, I know, but that's the humanity that we are. We are actively trying to be unhappy and the worst versions of ourselves. We actively do this. We remain low grade and inferior, and then ask why we're always in the clearance bin. Why am I always dealing with this shit? what is this? Why is this minutia here? Like, I want to have big things going on, and I'm doing big things and impactful things. Well, then do them. But you're doing everything that keeps you away from it. It staves it off. Like blessings. We talk ourselves out about blessings. If someone gives you a compliment, say fucking thank you and possibly compliment the person back. Someone gives you a compliment, don't say, I don't really like this, or this, it's just, I'm so fat though. Stop doing that. Say thank you and talk more about it. Shit, if you have to. Just to get you in the habit of not taking the compliment, for negating the compliment. Too many of us do that. I see people do it all the time, just in random conversation, walking past someone in the grocery store. Someone compliments one person and that one person, oh, I know, but... Of course, we know everything after but is bullshit. Shut the fuck up. When you say, I know, instead of saying but, say thank you. How about that? Let's try manners. We can work on those. We definitely can work on those. So, hey, turn it into a 2-part lesson. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Stop doing that. Someone is taking the time to give you something and you're telling them, no, I don't want your gift. That's an insult to that person. They're extending their hand to you to give you something positive, and you're telling them to take it and shove it up their fucking ass. Yeah, no, I'm good. You can have it back. Thank you so much, though. You tell them thank you for accepting your fuck you. Jeez, like, we're just so bad right now. We're so bad off. And this is what I mean. Like, humanity is so broken. We're not beyond disrepair, though. We're not beyond that. We aren't there yet. But we're rapidly rolling down that hill. We are gaining momentum on our way to disrepair. As an entire race, humanity, everyone that bleeds blood, has muscle and tissue, every mammal in this bitch, bipedal motherfucker on this goddamn planet that can speak and has thumbs. We all are going down that path collectively. So while I have gone through my evolution processes, the people who have not are dragging me back down with them, because I am unable to do, number one, my job, because of the, same reason that people don't accept compliments. But 2, I have to accept the shit that I get from those people that have not done their work, which then slowly starts to degrade what it is that I'm doing. It's unintentional yet intentional. It's just, again, it's just how broken we are. Things happen in humanity that baffles the shit out of me, because we don't recognize, even in those types of situations, how closely human beings are to each other, how our actions affect one another. We don't recognize that shit, and it's right there in everything that we do and say and everything else in between. So that's why it's extra critical that you criticize yourself, judge yourself. Whatever that is, that hard shit that you have to do, put yourself through the ringer in order to be sure that you are the perfected version of your higher self on this earth that has a fucking job to do. Be the best you can be at that fucking job. If you can do that shit for this fucked up country as a soldier and all of that shit, and I'm not saying anything bad about vets, but I'm saying if you can be a person that can easily give your life away, sign your life away to this fucked up country, thinking you're doing a patriotic thing, then do that shit for the rest of humanity and for yourself. Evolve into the best that you can be. The best you can be. Not the best neighbor that you can be, because you're not your neighbor. But you and your actions and how you treat that neighbor will affect their evolution process. And it just goes from there. So yes, if I'm coming to you in a critiquing way, I've done those processes. I've gone through it and I have evolved and grown. And I just want each and every one of you to be able to do so and to be able to help others reach their evolution goals too.